What makes you so sure? Abby can just kind of disappear.
Welcome back to
sometimes.
Recappy. Today we are going to recap a 2012 horror thriller movie titled Eden. A young Korean-American girl, abducted and forced into prostitution by domestic human traffickers, cooperates with her captors in a desperate ploy to survive. But before we begin, please consider subscribing to this channel. Now without wasting any further time, let's begin, shall we? Our story begins with Yoon-jae, a young woman who lives with her parents and works as a cashier in a store. When her friend Abby offers her a phony ID so they may order alcohol at bars, everything appears to be fine. Her mother, on the other hand, chastises her for staying out beyond curfew. After that, she and Abby go to the bar. A man notices Yoon-jae as soon as they sit down and is immediately attracted to her. As a result, Abby lets them both converse. Yoon-jae eventually gets inside the man's automobile. They appear to be having a wonderful time. Until he pulls over to a gas station and informs her that he needs to make a phone call. He kisses her passionately before leaving. Yoon-jae, on the other hand, notes that as soon as he got out of the car, he walked up to the car behind them. She turns around, skeptical, to see him opening the trunk. She tries to jump out of the car and flee as soon as she knows what's going on, but he catches her. The next morning, Bob, a police officer, comes across another cop conversing with a man. He then discovers that that man's land contains the body of a girl who was murdered and buried. He murders them both as soon as he realizes they didn't contact the authorities. Yoon-jae awakens the next day to find herself in a room with a doctor. She attempts to beg for her life, terrified. Despite this, the doctor administers medication to her and removes her braces. Yoon-jae is resting in a bunker bed with another girl named Priscilla a little later. She can't get out of bed because she's depressed. Meanwhile, Bob enters with a box of kittens to distribute to the facility's female residents. He then notes that Yoon-jae is new and warns her that she must obey his rules if she wants to keep her family safe, since he now knows everything there is to know about her. She discovers that she has been sex trafficked, and she must satisfy her patrons if she is not to have her family murdered. A day later, Yoon-jae and Priscilla are chosen for a job out of all the girls. Yoon-jae isn't sure what that implies because she's new. She arrives at their destination, which appears to be a BDSM filming set, a short time later. Yoon-jae is trapped and has no choice but to follow their directions. Later that night, she sobs in Priscilla's arms, pleading with her to let her go. The next day, Vaughn, Bob's right-hand man, takes Yoon-jae for another customer, but this time he chooses her on his own. Meanwhile, Vaughn is in the bathroom getting high when he hears the client screams. Evidently, he discovers that Yoon-jae escaped by attacking the customer via the window. As a result, he pursues her. Despite the fact that she screams for aid and comes across a gathering of ladies, Vaughn informs them that he is a cop and she is resisting arrest. As a result, he returns her to the facility, where she is bound and dumped with ice to teach her a lesson. After a year, Yoon-jae has gotten the hang of the regulations. Despite the fact that she despises what she does, she only does it to protect her family. She breaks a heel from her shoe to keep it as a weapon because she knows Vaughn's favorite girl, Svetlana, has her family ring. When she returns to the facility, she discovers that Priscilla has gone missing, so Svetlana is sharing the bunker with her. Yoon-jae attacks her in the middle of the night when she is sleeping, and she manages to remove the ring from her. Regrettably, Vaughn hears the brawl. He then intervenes to break them up, but Yoon-jae is punished by having to swallow the ring. Yoon-jae, desperate, tries to persuade him that she can assist him in making more money. But all he does is yell at her to go back to bed. The next night, at a house party, Vaughn selects Yoon-jae and two other girls for a customer. Nonetheless, it ends up being a nightmare because the client is late and refuses to pay what he owes. Vaughn isn't very good at math, but Yoon-jae assists him in calculating how much money they'll need. Vaughn realizes that the other two girls have vanished after they have been paid. Yoon-jae finds them in a convenience store after driving around looking for them and debating whether to let them run away or seek Vaughn's favor. She eventually chooses to inform him, increasing Vaughn's trust in her. The next day, Vaughn assigns Yoon-jae an odd task, cleaning his residence while avoiding client meetings. As time passes, Vaughn has more confidence in Yoon-jae and replaces Svetlana with her. He assigns her the task of answering the client's calls and assisting him with other tasks such as bringing other females to the clients. Meanwhile, a man named Greer follows up on Bob's involvement in the murders of two men last year. He then tells him that they discovered he was in the vicinity at the time of the murder thanks to his GPS tracker. Bob, on the other hand, gets to get out of it by lying. Yoon-jae, on the other hand, gets a call from a client who wants to schedule several of the females. However, before he hangs up, he inquires about the price. Yoon-jae recalls Vaughn telling her that all of their clients are aware of the price, and that anyone who inquires over the phone could be a federal agent. Regardless, she informs him of the situation. She doesn't tell Vaughn about it later. Vaughn and Yoon-jae meet up with Bob beside the river the next morning to dispose of several girls' remains. Bob keeps tormenting Vaughn about his history, despite the fact that Yoon-jae remains out of it. He ultimately snaps and has had enough of Bob's talking, so he kills him in cold blood. Yoon-jae is stunned and remains silent as Vaughn informs her that he has been ordered to kill him, leaving Vaughn in command. Yoon-jae and Vaughn deliver a female to a client a few days later. Until she needs to use the restroom, she stays out of most conversations. While strolling down the corridor, she notices a door that is slightly ajar and discovers Priscilla, who had been missing for almost a year. She's now pregnant, it turns out. Yoon-jae hugs her, relieved that she is still alive. However, the girl notices that she looks different and deduces that Yoon-jae is now willingly working for them. Yoon-jae, desperate, attempts to convey to her that she must survive, but she flees the room before anyone notices her. They're only keeping Priscilla for her baby, she realizes, and they'll kill her after she gives birth. Vaughn is suspicious of Yoon-jae on the trip back because she knows they're only keeping Priscilla alive so they can sell her baby on the black market, but she doesn't show it in front of him. As a result, he suspects she's plotting to betray him behind his back, but he chooses to put her to the test. He orders her to shoot the girl who is with them, threatening to shoot her instead if she does not obey. Both of the girls are terrified as she prepares to take the injection, but Vaughn intervenes at the last moment and informs her that he's merely testing her, while praising her for following his commands. Vaughn is informed that the girls will be transported to a separate place in Dubai, so they return to the facility. Back at the facility, Yoon-jae assists in removing the girls and disposing of any evidence after it was discovered that one of their own was preparing to sell them to the cops. Following that, Vaughn brings Yoon-jae to his flat to obtain the passports before they depart. Fortunately, Yoon-jae recalls that he has some cleaning products from the last time she was here. So, with his pipe in hand, she dashes over to the cabinet and sprays the interior with cleaning spray. When Vaughn returns, he tells her that he has plans for the future in which they would govern the organization together without hindrance because he trusts her so much. Yoon-jae, on the other hand, keeps an eye on him as he inhales the poison pipe. Vaughn, terrified, begins to suffocate without realizing what is happening to him, and he eventually dies from a lack of air. She takes some of the morphine he has in his fridge before she goes, since she has another person in mind. After some time has passed, Yoon-jae returns to the location where Priscilla is being held and attempts to purchase her from her owner. However, he informs her that she has sufficient funds, but he agrees to allow her to see her for a few minutes before she departs. Yoon-jae injects him with enough morphine to murder him as soon as his back is turned away from her. Thankfully, she discovers that Priscilla is still alive, but that her baby has been sold. Yoon-jae rescues Priscilla while she is devastated, and the two of them flee before anyone discovers what she has done. Yoon-jae and Priscilla are finally free to return home in the truck, but Yoon-jae wanted to do something before she found her family. So she pulls over to a payphone along the route and dials her mother's number. Her mother breaks down in tears as soon as she hears her daughter's voice and realizes she is still alive. The film comes to a close. I hope you enjoyed it, as always until next time.